Hey guys, what's going on? In this video, we're going to be talking about things I wish I would have known when I started lifting. All right, so the first thing I wish I would have known was the importance of a well-balanced program. A well-balanced program is a workout split that contains all the body parts. Yeah, contains foot day. A well-balanced program is an exercise split that in a week's time can train everything minimum of 2 times, not just focus on 1 or 2 muscle groups that are fun to train. Now, don't get me wrong, doing push exercises or chest exercises are still my favorite, or arm day, stuff like that. It's still some of my favorite type of training. I still prioritize back training or leg training and stuff like that. So number 2, the second thing I wish I would have known is having a higher frequency of training. So when you first start lifting, most people do a bro split, train one, chest day, arm day, back day, leg day, shoulder day, and you do 1 body part per day, and you train everything once per week. Now, not that there's anything super inherently wrong with this approach. I think that the more optimal approach to go, if you are a natural lifter, which means that do not take steroids or any sort of enhancements, essentially means if you are a natural lifter, it is best to train every muscle group at least twice per week, and some of the smaller groups even 3 times. And the reason why is because every time you strain your muscle, you go to the gym and you work out, it gets tired and it stimulates protein synthesis, which therefore is the growth process and the building new muscle tissue. Now, this process lasts 24 to 48 hours. So basically, you want to have your training frequency to 2 to 3 times per week, because at the end of that protein synthesis, you can train again. Whether you're sore or not, that muscle, be it your chest, your arms, your legs, can be trained again. Therefore, why wait 7 whole days when at maximum 2, you're ready to train again? Because typically you'll get twice the stimulation, hopefully twice the growth. All right, so number 3 of the things I wish I would have known is you want to track everything. Track it for a while and then have a good idea in your head at where you're at with things. Because gaining muscle, in theory, is simple, but in execution is a little more difficult. What I'm talking about is tracking your calories. So in order to gain muscle, you need to be in a calorie surplus. You find your maintenance calories and you add 200 to 300, and you play with that number. While you're doing that, you weigh yourself in the morning. I do it every morning, but you can do it a couple times a week, and before you eat or drink anything, and track that trend upward and see if you are gaining weight. If not, add calories. If you're gaining too much, take away calories. It's really that simple, but you kind of want to play with that number. So you want to be tracking that scale weight as well, so you know if you're gaining weight. 2 to 3 pounds a month, not more than that. Really, I would just say 2 pounds a month. And also track your lifts. So every time you go to the gym, you're gonna know what you did last time because you wrote it down. And that way, it is easier to progress, which leads me to my 4th thing. And the 4th thing I wish I would have known is progressive overload. Progressive overload is a way of inducing muscle growth by progressively getting stronger, progressively overloading. So progressive overload is just the act of overloading, progressing over time. And there's many ways to do it. I guess there's no really best way. It depends on what works best for you. You can do it, getting stronger over time, which is what I encourage. You want to get overall stronger over time. Doing your compound lifts and just getting stronger in those, like by actual numbers. So going from 135 to 225 and stuff like that over a stretch of time. Often people struggle with how to progress, workout to workout, which is really important. And obviously you can't add, pounds and pounds to your lifts every single workout. Better way to overload is by overall volume. So I like to focus on double progression method, which is either, sticking to a certain rep range for a certain exercise and it's planned that way, and you go into it doing a certain amount of reps. And once you hit the maximum threshold of that rep range, so if it's like 8 to 12, if you're doing 20 pounds for 8 to 12 reps and you're landing at 20 pounds for 10 reps, you want to do 20 pounds until you hit 12 reps and then drop it to, go up to 25 until you go back up, build back up at that 12 rep threshold, and you go back down. If you're not progressing with the weight, you're just working on the reps. And once the reps meet the maximum, you're going with the weight. That's just one way to progress. That's how I like to do every workout. That way you are having some sort of goal and you're adding a rep, adding 1 or 2 reps is still progressing, whether you're, and over time in your program and in your training history, this is going to add up to a larger amount of progression. Number 5 is compound lifts. Now, this is talked about, but I just wanted to briefly touch on it about how when you first start lifting, you kind of want to do curls, you want to do all these fun exercises. bench is the only compound lift that most beginner lifters probably do. You want to focus your training on getting stronger on these key lifts. You know, weighted pull-up, bench press. I love incline bench press. So any form of pushing like that, seated dumbbell shoulder press, cable rows, or any sort of chest supported row as well. Stuff like that. Squatting, deadlifting, compound lifts are crucial staples in a program, and then you want to sprinkle isolation lifts on top, whatever you would like to apply on top. Obviously, it's really important to have those isolation lifts because you can't really have one without the other, but I would say as a staple, you want to have those compound lifts, build that strength, get really strong while you're bulking, while you're in that gaining phase, and then you can start to add more overload, more volume, and more specialization with those isolation lifts where if you're really lagging where you want to make more gains. Number 6 is gaining and losing. Can be very obvious, but I just want to touch upon it. When I started lifting, I did not know this. So if you want to get shredded, you want to get lean, have abs, calorie deficit, so less calories than required to maintain your body weight. I know that sounds simple and I know that seems obvious, but it's not always obvious, especially to beginners. So I'm just passing that knowledge down. And then to gain muscle, you want to be in a caloric surplus, which is slightly above that maintenance. So if your maintenance is 2,500 calories, you want to be around 27, 28, 2,900, and then go from there. The last thing is sticking to a program for long enough. I'm still can be guilty of this. It's so easy to get bored in what you're doing, but you really got to stick with it for the long haul. What I'm saying is, if you get in a program, stay on it for at least 3 months. See if it's actually getting you results. Actually build strength across all the lifts and don't change anything. Now after 2 or 3 months, if you don't like something in the program, swap it out for something else and try that for a while. Really, with lifting, it's all about trial and error. But the most important thing is that you find something that works for you and you stick to it long term. That's where you're gonna see the most results. It's so important. As I see a lot of people just like do something one week and then the next week they're doing a different type of program. You have to confuse the muscle. The muscle confusion is the progressive overload. Confusing the muscle by adding more tension over time. That's the strategy. Muscle doesn't get confused by doing different exercises. Like you bench this week and now you're doing this different thing, and it's hard to measure your progress when you're doing something completely different. So you want to stick consistent with the same exercises in a cycle in 2 to 3 months, 4 months, and see, as long as you're progressing in those lifts, as long as you're doing well in that program, why change it? And ride it out for as long as possible until you stall. Maybe take a deload of a week, lift lighter for a week, and then try to hop back onto it. Always helps to, do your research. A lot of misinformation out there, and just apply what you find to yourself and see if it works for you. And if it does, great. And if it doesn't, keep searching, keep trying things, because you will find what works for you. And I feel like I've always found what works for me and use that, because there's just so many things out there and you don't want to be misled. And I want you to get results. I want everyone to make gains. So that's the whole goal here. All right, guys. So thanks for watching the video. I greatly appreciate you sticking around. If you did this long, I know I kind of ramble. I'm kind of all over the place. So I appreciate all of your support. Leave a like. Let me know what you thought down below, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.